So I was in 5th grade, and the town was having a big Easter egg hunting competition. So I showed up with my basket and my glasses on so I could see all the eggs, and I was pretty sure I was gonna win. So they fired a gun in the air to start the competition, and I started looking for eggs. And I was grabbing any egg I saw. I found eggs in bushes, and nooks, and crannies. I had so many eggs my basket was overflowing with eggs, and I knew I was gonna win. And then, here comes Byron Easter egg britches. See, the rule was, you were supposed to put the eggs in your basket, but Byron, he was stuffing the Easter eggs into his britches, and his britches were so big, he had a ton of eggs in there. He must have had thousands of eggs in his britches. So I chuckled to myself, and I said, that fool, he's gonna be disqualified for putting eggs in his britches instead of the basket. So then we go to count up all our eggs, and I got 37 eggs. And I'm feeling pretty good about that, because that's a lot of eggs. And then they count up how many eggs Byron has, and Byron got 2,624 eggs in his britches. And then they declare him the winner. And I say, no, that's bullshit. Because the rule was we were supposed to put the eggs in our basket, not our britches. And then the mayor said, kid, calm down. It's just an Easter egg hunting competition. It's not that big of a deal. And then I said, no, that and you, because those were the rules, and where are we without rules? So then my mom washed my mouth out with soap for cursing at the mayor, and Byron won the competition, and they congratulated him for being so smart for putting the eggs in his britches, and the mayor gave him a medal for collecting the most eggs ever. So for the next 10 years, Byron would win every Easter egg hunting competition by putting eggs in his britches. And I even tried to put eggs in my britches, but my britches were never big enough to collect enough eggs, and people said I was a copycat for putting eggs in my britches. So when I was in kindergarten, we would always eat marbles. We weren't supposed to, and for legal purposes, I should say you shouldn't either, because they could cause an obstruction in your bowels and you could die. But for my made-up story, I used to eat marbles all the time. Other kids would eat cereal for breakfast, but I would eat a bowl of marbles. There was this one girl named Mabel the Marble Muncher. She would keep a pack of marbles in her pocket like they were Skittles. Whenever she used the bathroom, it sounded like she was shooting up the bathroom with a BB gun. Her shit looked like Reese's Puffs. One day, she challenged me to a marble eating contest, and I said, "You really want to do this, bitch?" But the teacher heard me and I got suspended, so I didn't actually get to beat her in the marble eating contest, and when I got back to school from being suspended, she had already moved away to Maryland. So I was in 3rd grade, and it was bring your pet to school day, and I brought my pet fish Stinky. I called him that because his tank was always stinky because I never cleaned it. Anyway, I brought him to school, and all the other kids brought their pets. There were cats and dogs and snakes and iguanas, you know, cool pets. All I had was my stupid fish. So I sat down at my desk in front of this kid named Fish Thrower Felix. I was actually the only one who called him that, and you're about to find out why. See, Fish Thrower Felix stuck his hand in my fishbowl and pulled out my fish and said, "Hey, if you like your fish so much, why don't you go get him?" And he threw my fish out the window into the street. And then I looked out the window and saw my worst nightmare coming true. Old Man Teddy came puttering down the street in his monster truck. And I said, "Hey, Old Man Teddy, watch out! Don't run over my pet fish!" But Old Man Teddy couldn't hear at all, and he was blind as a bat, and he couldn't drive. So he ran right over my fish. And he went on to crush 6 cars, killing 12 people, and he crashed into the side of a children's hospital, exploding in a huge fiery mess. It was an honest-to-God disaster. I mean, it was a national tragedy. It was all over the news, but I ran outside, and I held my squished fish, but nobody else cared, because everything around me was on fire, and I begged the paramedics to revive my fish, but they just didn't care, because they were too busy pulling bodies out of the cars. So when I was a kid, I was the hide-and-seek champion. All my friends would come over and we'd play hide-and-seek and no one could ever find me. They'd always yell, "We give up," and I'd pop out of my hiding spot, the champion. But then, this one kid showed up. His name was Hide-and-Seek Zeke. See, Zeke, he could hide in places no other human being could possibly fit in. It's like he had no bones. He could just slither into hiding spots like a snake. There was this one time, I was looking for Zeke for an entire 24 hours and I finally gave up. And Zeke jumped out of a fucking toaster. I know that sounds physically impossible, but it's true. I don't know how the he did it. And when it was Zeke's turn to seek, he would find everyone in seconds. Just gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Zeke was the new hide-and-seek champion. So this one time, Zeke was seeking, and I ran out of my house, hopped on a train to Boston, stowed away on a steamboat to London, changed my name to London Guy, got plastic surgery to change my entire face, and still Zeke found me. I was so pissed. So I decided to hide cameras in my house, and we played hide-and-seek again, and I saw Zeke hiding a box of Fruit Loops. So I lit my house on fire, and I ran out. So So I was in elementary school, and we were making macaroni art, and I made a smiley face. And I thought it was the best smiley face you could make as a third grader. So I called the teacher over, and I was like, "Mrs. Williams, look!" And she gave me a thumbs up. So I was like, "F yeah, I got a thumbs up, that's me." But then, there he was, Macaroni Jones. He made a dinosaur out of macaroni. Like, I'm talking, it was gorgeous. I thought it was a real dinosaur, his art was so good. And Mrs. Williams saw it and said, "Hey, look, class, look how good Macaroni Jones's art is." And the entire class clapped and cheered, and this one kid even pulled his eyes out and said, "I never want to see anything ever again, because I've seen it all now. I want that macaroni art to be the last thing I ever see." So that pissed me off. So I went home that night, and I got a bucket of glue and a box of macaroni, and I stayed up all night to try to make macaroni art better than his. Then I went to school the next day and said, "Hey, Mrs. Williams, check this shit out. I made the best possible tree out of macaroni." And Mrs. Williams said, "Very nice, guy." And it broke my heart. Very nice? That's it? Then, everyone heard a honk outside, and we looked out the window, and Macaroni Jones pulled up in his macaroni car. He made an entire car out of macaroni. You should have seen the kid with no eyes. He pulled his ears off after that. He said that was the last thing he ever wanted to hear because it was so beautiful. I even heard Macaroni Jones made his entire house out of macaroni. He even put a feather in his cap and called it macaroni. So I vowed from that day forward to be the best at macaroni art. I never heard what happened to Macaroni Jones after that, but I think he might be the quarterback for the New England Patriots now.